Hey everybody, good morning and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Ann. And no disembodied voices today. I think Justin and John are hovering with their disembodied fingers though. So hi everybody. Yeah, we're starting, rock troll's done. So I still need to put like one more puddle of goo. Because you have to build up this in layers. I'm getting there's a little bit of irregularity I got when it dried. And it does that sometimes. It'll pucker or it'll get weird. That's why I keep different versions of this. The most smooth version, but also the one that fills the least is the realistic water from Woodland Scenics. So I need to put another pool of realistic water on there. But the cool thing about this, and let's see if we can get... So you can see kind of the shimmery surface where it's not smooth. You can see the paint. You can kind of see it modeling under the surface, but what you can also see is actual reflection. So that irregularity that you're seeing there is not actually painted. That little cloudy spot is the pool reflecting the crystals up there. So, Kaz, no, this is an old model. The Genie, no. This is the brand new, the first time. This is a model I've had since this resin was first printed. So way back before she was released. And at that time I did the skin just because I felt like doing super smooth skin tones. I did it just as I thought I would just paint it. Like Rhonda was painting one, I thought I would paint one. So no, this skin tutorial is nowhere. If it was, it would be like 4 or 5 hours long. Because when you're doing something super smooth like this and you're tuning, and you guys aren't even seeing it necessarily as smooth as it is. Let me see if I can find a slightly lighter piece of paper here. Where did I put my really light gray? Let's see here. Do I have a light gray? I do have a light gray. This might be too light. I'll see. If I put her on the light gray, can you guys see a little bit more? Yeah, that's going to be probably better for her. We may want to switch her to the light gray so that you can see her more. So, all right, I'm going to keep this light gray here. Hold on. But yeah, so, I mean, the way to do that skin, guys, is just all the layering that I've ever shown you, only with, really, honestly, very thin paint and just building up a lot of layers. So, doing it is not hard to do, but it requires patience, and you need to nail your paint consistency. So let me put this lighter. We're gonna switch to a lighter paper for her because she needs it. Otherwise she tends to bleach out a little bit. I think she gets really pale against this darker gray. So I'm gonna slide this in here and just swap it out when we go to a different figure. But yeah, I mean, skin like this is where. When you want to do skin like this is the pinnacle of layering. Like, as far as, and smoothness isn't always required. Like, right, you hear the F smoothness movement from from a lot of painters, which is essentially just them rebelling against the fact that smoothness for a long time, when I was first starting to paint, smoothness was everywhere and it was what everybody wanted to get to, and they wanted to do smoothness on everything. And, okay, so let's start from the beginning, everybody. Start from the beginning. This is a model that I got way back before it was released. Originally, I intended to paint it kind of as a gin off with Rhonda. Like, she had the original copy of it that she was painting for Reaper. And I thought, oh, well, I'll do one too. We can have fighting Genies, But then I just put it aside because I was making paint at the time and I didn't have a lot of time for staff painting. So I did the skin because I really felt like doing something super high quality, but then I ran out of time. Like, if deadlines popped up, a new thing popped up, and she got put on a shelf for 2 years or whatever it's been, right? 3 years maybe. So this is a model that I'm using today, and we may not keep it, because if you guys are super confused that I started in the middle of something like an old project, then I can start from nowhere. But I thought that since there was a lot of people who seemed to like this model, and since I already had a start on her, I could continue it on the stream and actually finish it. So, well, this is the hard part. Okay, so skin tones like this are like layering, but this is also a fade, right? It goes from, and maybe you guys can't see it, but it is pink. Like it goes from blue to pink and on up to white from there. So yeah, 9 cents. It's not even like 2 cents worth. You're giving me 9 cents worth. So, well, the smoke cloud is going to give you trouble unless you wet blend or layer. Really, again, this whole model just begs for smooth. Like you could do it with texture, but I mean, between the fact that she is actually air, you know, and all of these soft swirls, you know, it's just like that. So. But yeah, this is doing a transitional colored skin tone, I think is one of the harder things to do because you have to work it up from, in this case, what I used was Ultramarine Highlight. And then I used a pink that's a lot like BCA pink, breast cancer awareness pink. It was an original formulation of one of the Pathfinder pinks, but it's that kind of cooler pink. And I went up to her there because I wanted her to look like Dawn. I wanted her to essentially look like Dawn Sky. So that's why we have the color shift that we have here. And it's just a painted on color shift, but it does really make her look, I can't even, I wish I could get the pink to show a little bit better, but you're not getting much of it. It's actually quite vivid in person, the color shift is. You can see a little bit more back there on the arm. But it actually shifts to pink before it shifts to white. The lips are Succubus Kiss, so, you know, if you haven't picked up those Dungeon Dwellers, you probably should. I use Succubus Kiss for so many lips nowadays. So yeah. Yeah, light brown would not work with this skin color. No, not Icy Violet. This is Ultramarine Highlight with a pink. Now, technically, the color that I got is very close to Icy Violet. Like the mid-tone color, maybe, although you'd have to add white to it. So, like, if you did like a 50-50 white with this, you'd get a transition color between the Ultramarine Highlight and the pink. This is really close to a transition. So I forgive you for not, but you can see how it's different, right? You can see how she's more blue. Succubus Kiss, just if you want like a more striking lip color. Like if you're looking for really dark lips, keep in mind that this is not a natural lip color trouble. Like, my paint-along people are learning that on our latest paint-along project. When we did lip color, I showed them how shifting the lip color on the model is going to give you a very different character for the model. Going like pale pink and like bubblegum pink gives you a very girly look on a model, whereas going darker gives you a more mature look. So keep that in mind. You can't just take one lip color and use it for everything unless you're always going for the same look. If you're always painting, you know, goth girls, then yeah, you can totally use the same lip color. It's just white Pendrake right now. I think that white is the safest. I think that white is probably the way I want to go, but I haven't settled on that yet. I really want to work on her midsection. So the back is I am on day 3 cool pack of, getting up. Yeah, kind of like that, Francis, the kind of the dawn sky. That's what I was thinking. Like the white to pink clouds and the kind of pale purpley blue sky. This is probably the best blending I've done in a very long time, War Shadow. And I was known, like me, Jennifer Haley, Marika, all of us were known back in the day for smooth blends, like super smooth skin tones. Like that's what we all liked it, and so we all aspired to do it, and so we all got really good at it. And so you don't see this a lot anymore because it's not the style now. People don't want it. They want texture. They want, you know, the suggestion, you know, not just super smooth. You know, right now the emphasis is on only using smoothness on things where it makes sense, right? So, hey there, Julie and Bob. But anyway, this is Ashara, and I was going to look up her item number. I have her in my phone. 1 second. I'm going to write out a sticky note for her like we did with the Duelist since I don't have a card. 44012. Let us write it down. And then we will proceed to mix up some paint. But yeah, I mean, the secret to smoothness is layering. Or if you're Marika, you wet blend first and then you layer. You can do it either way. And you can get a perfectly smooth result either way. It'll look slightly different. Yeah, thanks there, Quindy, with the link. And is it Ashara? I don't know. Genie. We're just going to put her Genie. And we're going to do 4, 4, 0, 1, 2. Yes, she's Bones Black. She's a very high quality sculpt. She's very, very nice. I believe Bobby Jackson. I believe it's Bobby. Am I correct? Yeah, it's Shauna. Thank you. There. Now we've got a little card for her. So if you want to, there you go. Ashana Genie, Bones Black, as you know from the 44,000 mark. Excellent. Excellent. Put my phone over there. We don't need it anymore. Thank you. Thank you, Bob and Julie. Yeah, as I was just telling them that I wanted her to look like she's like from a dawn sky. I was really wanting to do kind of a sunrise color scheme on her. So the metal's definitely going pale gold along with that. And I am gonna okay, so here's the dealio. Apparently you are also meant to paint this interim part as skin, but there's no navel because she's made of mist. And Bobby didn't think that she would have a navel. So essentially I was going to just paint it like a onesie. I was really going to paint it like she's wearing kind of, like a swimsuit. I was fine with that. And that's really kind of what I'm still planning to do because I want some contrast in this. But Ron was annoyed because, I didn't get it, that it was supposed to be skin. But a lot of other people are painting her the way where you can make the midriff skin. What it comes down to is just, what do you feel like doing, and do it. I'm going to paint her as if she's got cloth here because I can't see any details like a musculature or anything that would lead me to believe that it's anything but that. But that is definitely your own prerogative. Bobby Jackson. I'm going to note the sculptor on our little sticky note. And she's definitely got the, you don't want to do that look on her face. So it's awesome. Alrighty, so let us get into it. I am actually going to use a dark, so here's the other reason I want to kind of go with kind of a onesie here. And actually, I'm going to go dark with it. With the cloth here and with these little hangy scarf things here, I'm going to go dark with both of these. And the reason is that otherwise, I'm not going to have... otherwise I'm not going to have any darks on this model, except for her eyes and lips. And I don't want that. I definitely want some contrast here. And I know that a lot of this stuff is going to be very opalescent. So it's only, and the gold is going to be kind of middle range. So that means that if I go any dark, if I do dark anywhere, I've got to do it on the cloth stuff here. And maybe even on the flower up there. So yeah, super smooth skin tones, even though they are disparaged by many European painters these days. I mean, the reason that skin tones look like they've just been splashed on is just that people aren't blending. They aren't using layering. They aren't using wet blending, either because it's not their style, or because they haven't learned to do it yet. And okay, so here's my take on that. I really hate the whole F blending, F smoothness movement. I hate how it's been branded that way. Even though the intention is not to exclude or to diss people who do smooth like I do, I still really think it's offensive. So for me, the point is, okay, you can say, F smoothness, but if you're going to do that, show me you can do it. First get it in your toolbox, then feel free to kick it out the door if you don't like it. That's kind of my whole mindset on that. I really hate any painting maxim, saying, or philosophy that takes another technique that's perfectly valid and says kick it out the door. And I understand that that's because for a long time smoothness was the apex and all the texture people got kicked out the door. So I totally get it, but you don't have to pass on the poison. Let's just all learn all the techniques and then choose what we like to do, and then we'll all have different styles. Best world. Yeah, it's gatekeeping, Sephiroth, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I am very much the teach you how to do everything in the world. At this point, there is no technique I cannot do, except maybe two-brush blend, because I just can't stand having the second brush, so I two-brush blend with one brush. But every other technique on this planet, you let me look at an example of it in person, I can mimic it. So, and even down, I'm getting closer to photorealism. Maybe photorealism is the one thing I can't do yet, but I'm getting closer. So it's like, teach everybody everything. And then you can choose whether you like smoothness. If you really prefer texture, go that way. Most of the time nowadays, I prefer to add a little texture to various objects because I've come to understand that very little, especially in fantasy painting, very little is hyper smooth, right? Everything's got a texture. Everything's rougher. They didn't have plastics. They didn't have super hyper smooth chrome metals, you know, that kind of thing. So I get it, but teach people everything. Make everything good. And then you choose. Yeah. Photorealism on minis is just hard because you have to, like, it's always going to be slightly flawed because you've got your main viewing angles, but then you are, but then after that, you know, it's going to look slightly off from other angles if people turn the model around just slowly, right? Like, and it's just the same with kind of NMM. You try to make sure that like at the four corners of the compass, it looks right. But you're never maybe going to nail it like where it looks good from every direction. Although I don't know, Darren Hahn's faces look pretty darn awesome from every direction. And he's the only photorealist mini painter I know of right now. I beg to differ, Safaroko. Go and find a guy named Darren Hahn. You will be shocked and appalled at how real his faces look. I am using his stuff as a pattern for how I'm doing mine. Yes, you can do it. He has hyper realistic faces. You would think it was a freaking photograph. It's not fair. And then when you zoom up, you can see all of the tiny stippling and brushstrokes he's doing to get that subsurface scatter. It's insane. Look up this guy. Seriously, his stuff is amazing. But he's the only miniature painter I know of right now who's doing photorealism. Darren Hahn. Darren, last name Han. And if you look at him, I think he's got a lot of stuff up on Facebook. And if you see like everybody like my name and everybody, all the mini painters you know of, like are his friend, you've got the right guy. But look at his gallery. It seriously will shock you. The worst part is that all his video offerings tend to be in Chinese. I think Chinese. But in a language I don't speak. So I pretty much have to just look at his pictures and try to deconstruct, which has been a real challenge and a real pleasure. He works on a lot of bigger busts, though, so keep that in mind. I tried to do a lot of his techniques on my 1/10 scale bust, and it's just not quite big enough. Yeah, are you shocked, everybody? Did you go look at his stuff? Yeah. Like that man has some serious cred. Yeah, right? See, you're all like, yeah. That's what I thought when I first saw it too. And then I promptly, yeah, it looks real. It looks like a person. It's insanely good. But then when you zoom in, because you can grab his pictures, you know, and kind of zoom in on them, and then you see all the paint. You can see the brushstrokes then. But it's so fine, and it's so thin, and it's so layered up, and you can see the layering that he's doing, right? Of all different colors. And that's why it works. It's because he's working with so many different colors layered over each other. So I reverse engineered his skin tone color recipe. I managed to go that far. But yeah, I need to find a really bigger bust where I can try to get that realism factor. Yeah, even the hair. Yeah. Although the hair is a little more like you could see more what he's doing, I think, with the hair. But yeah, if you look at some of his models that have stubble or beards painted on, it's crazy. It's crazy insane. Darren with an E-N, double R, and Han. Yep, there we go. We're a squirrel got it. Yeah, look him up on Facebook. So anyway, now we've been distracted, firmly distracted, and I need an appropriate pink. So did I keep BCA pink out? I might have to use a different pink, Runic Glow, if I decide to go that way. Let me find my Ultramarine, because that's where we're going. We're in Ultramarine land today. And the reason we're going with Ultramarine for her midsection is because I already used this color on the model. It's just the shadows, and it's much lighter. So, now, I did not show you Darren's stuff just to make you throw your brushes away. If that was the proper reaction, I should be the one throwing my brushes away, because I'm the one who's supposed to be a world-class miniature painter, and I haven't managed to match him yet. So, but I'm working on it. Working on it, dang it. Guys, okay, let's reset our mindset, shall we? Shall we, everyone? Let's reset our mindset. One, he's probably been painting he's probably been refining this technique at least a decade, if not longer, where he's been like refining this thing that he's trying to do, right? He paints a lot, and he's specifically focused on this. So You cannot judge yourself against that. You can only judge yourself at that level, and really you shouldn't judge yourself at that level anyway. Never. Judge is bad. But, you know, you should never even hold yourself up there unless you have also put in that time and commitment. Like, people, come on, come on. It's like trying to say, like, you throw out your brushes when you see this. It's like, I worked for years to get skin tones like this. It took me at least 5 years of working on smoothness to get to the point where I could knock it out of the park on smooth skin tones. At least 5 years of painting and focusing on getting better at layering. So until you've done that, you can't throw your brushes out and say, oh, I can't do this. Okay. No, he's not that old, but I bet he's been working on this since he was like a teenager, Robin. Like, he's got to have worked on art for quite a while. You don't just magically, like, get to do photorealism. Sorry. So even if he was just painting throughout his school days and discovered a talent and cultivated it, he's definitely put in the time. Hey, Zambies, we were just talking about Darren Hahn's crazy photorealistic face bust painting. And everybody's like, mind blown! Because we're talking about smoothness, and then we're talking about texture and, you know, stuff like that on mini painting. So, yeah. Right, exactly. Everybody's got something. We always say we got a free card in writing. In writing, you always say that everybody's got a free card. You've got something you do really well. You do characters really well. You do dialogue really well. You do world building really well. You do magic systems really well if you're Brandon Sanderson. You know, everybody's got a free card. Everybody's got a good thing. Right, exactly. D. Clearman, exactly. It's all about perspective. Right. And now, you're supposed to apply battle damage to your model, not your brush. Funny. Funny Royal Llama. Yeah. Yeah, he found something he was good at and enjoyed. I'll bet you anything that he really enjoys doing these faces to this level. I would. If I had that, if I had cultivated that, I really enjoy smooth blending. I super, like, get in the zone with it. Thanks, Val. Thanks. But yeah, in 2D painting, there's always something. There's something, and it's not just something that you're naturally good at. Free card is a bad term, and I wish that the writing community would stop putting it that way, but it is a useful way of thinking about the fact that everybody's got a different way of looking at something, right? So yeah, even in regular art, there's something that you are naturally, like, kind of have apted toward, but it's something that engrosses you, something that you are naturally drawn to, something that you enjoy. You don't get better at something because you grind away at it, hating it all the time. You get that good at something because you try it, you like it, and you work on it because you enjoy it, all right? That's key. That's key. Don't force yourself into holes that you're not fitted for, right? Like, look for the things that you're drawn to, excited about, and that, you know, you think, oh, this is kind of fun to play with. Then focus on that, and you'll become that's your niche. That's your thing, right? Love is the way. It is. Like, I always say, it's love and time, Cookie Tigress. The way you get good at anything in life is love and time. You spend the time, and you love it. And that's why patience is not required. So if you are feeling like you are toiling away at mini painting, something is wrong. Like, figure out, like, it could be just as easy as an attitude shift where you are always judging yourself, or it could be something that you're trying a technique and it's just not working and you don't like it. Switch to something else. So yeah. You will get good at painting fur, but you may have to switch, like, how you're doing it, Hutch. Like, I hated fur back in the day, too, because I thought I had to dry brush it, or I was side brushing it, or I was doing all these things for fur, and I didn't enjoy doing it, and it never looked as good as I wanted it to look. Then I started wet blending fur, and everything changed. Now I enjoy fur, because I found a way to do it, to paint it, from the get-go that's a little different, but that I think looks good, and that is fun for me. Hey there, Play in the Month. Thank you for the nice big raid. Hey, guys, we're all talking a bit about... We're actually talking about getting good at mini painting. We're talking about not judging yourself, and we're talking about... Because, you know, the minute you put something like this up, everybody's like, oh my god, those skin tones, I could never. But yeah, so we're just... You came in on us... before I'd actually started putting paint on the model, but I will actually, like, mix up my colors while we talk. So hi, I'm Anne. I work for Reaper. For a long time, I designed and mixed every batch of Reaper's Master Series paint line. Then I moved out here last year and out west, and now I stream. I talk about why the paint works the way it does and how it does, but we also talk a lot about, like we were just doing, perspectives and kind of like getting your head around so you're not like, you know, hating your painting and, you know, and different mindsets, stuff like that. Because becoming a better mini painter isn't just about grinding away at it. It's about finding aspects of the hobby that you love and getting good at those. Yeah, and if you're scared of something, or if you're pulling back from something, or if you really try it and you just hate it, put it aside for a while. Your whole mindset can change over time. So what we're doing here is we are mixing up some ultramarines, the Reaper ultramarine colors, which are kind of facsimiles of traditional ultramarine blue. Yeah, you need to step back from the judge, Dogfather. Step back from the judge. You are not automatically judgy, okay? You can change your mind on that. You can, like, and if you manage to do it, you may find that you get much more relaxed and enjoy your stuff. Gotta unjudge. Unjudge. I want a t-shirt. I will. That's it. That's my custom t-shirt. Like, so many painters have custom t-shirts. Like Sergio's he's the okayest mini painter. Like, I need a t-shirt that says unjudge. If there's not one out there, I'm going to make one. Judging yourself gets you so unhappy with everything in your freaking life, including your hobbies. Don't do it. I know that sounds, it's not easy, but it starts with acknowledging that you do it and then trying to undo it. Favorite colors? Yeah. Yeah, Hutch, we all get a unjudge, exactly. You'd buy a shirt like that, Thoramel? Awesome. Gren has a great point here, that you need to give painting time to be ugly. David just was fighting through a very long, ugly, David, my boyfriend, who's also a painter, of course, was just fighting through a very long, ugly phase, on his model. Ugly arse phase. I won't use the actual terminology because I try to keep it family friendly. Painting big merch. Do I need that? Is that my first piece of actual merch? Maybe I need to do that with the little painting big dragon, unjudge. But you have an excellent paint there, is that every miniature goes through an ugly phase. Like, unless, actually, I should say that the way I paint, guys, in sections like I do, that's meant to avoid the ugly phase. Like, that's part of why I do it, is that I get to finish that part. And so I don't go through a point where the entire miniature just looks like butt. Because that does kill enthusiasm, right? It does. And this is what I'm just talking about, is when you find yourself struggling with something in mini painting, rethink it. See if you can think of a way to work around it, to find a different way to think about it or approach it where you can get around that. For me, I hated the ugly phase. Like, I used to base coat all my models and hate that whole phase. I hate everything about it. It always looked not clean, and it was terrible, and it just looked awful because I hadn't adjusted the light levels, and yeah, I didn't like it. So I ended up switching to this, both to give myself the instant gratification of actually finishing something in one session, and also to avoid the ugly phase. And for the most part, it works. So always rethink. And then as far as the good mini painters have painted enough to have favorite colors, you are correct. We all get, I call it a color rut. I get in a color rut. Mine is purple and gold, sometimes with teal thrown in. David's is red and teal, sometimes orange and teal instead. But we all gravitate toward colors that we really, really like, right? And that's natural. In fact, color choice eventually becomes part of your painting style, unless you're always switching it up. If you're always trying to switch it up, then you're going to be pretty fluid on that, and probably your actual lighting and like your brush style is actually going to become your style more than colors. But often we choose to push ourselves in different directions than with color. So there are specific color palettes that we run toward, right? Unless we're pushing it. Yeah, Zambies, totally. I mean, canvas painting, same thing, right? Because you're blocking in. Unless I did it, if I go back to canvas painting, I bet you anything I do this. I bet you I do a block in, but then I finish one part tight so that I like it. Oh dear. I can't stand it. I can't stand not having a session where I don't get something to a point where I like it. So section painting is what I do. Criticize me if you will. Yeah, right. Yeah, Bob does that, and Bob Ross does that so well because he's got the whole thing in his mind. Like, he already knows where his endpoint is, and he's just seeing that. He's just working toward that. So he doesn't mind if it goes through an ugly phase because he can see beyond that. Thanks, Geeky. Yeah, I did the skin tones a long time ago when this model first came out. I was painting one because Rhonda had the studio model, but I wanted to paint one too. But then I got busy in the paint department, and I didn't have much time as a staff painter in those days. So she got put on a shelf for 3 years. So I'm like, yeah, you have to paint another section that looks better. Yeah, Hutch, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, it's just like enjoying. And again, we're unjudging, right? Unjudge. Yeah, I mean, exactly, Twisted Oma. Just, I always advise people to just focus on a small thing. With every miniature, focus on a small thing. Like, okay, this miniature has really nicely sculpted hair. I'm going to do really good hair on this figure. And just spend a little extra time working on the hair. So that you internalize. If you just keep chunking out models at game quality, you're going to get faster at game quality, and your brush control will get better at game quality, but you're not going to like necessarily elevate. You're going to hit a point where you really do have to push past that if you want to get above the level. If you're happy at that level and what you want is to be fast and clean, keep painting gaming models because you will get there. Let's see. Oh, letting your partner choose color schemes. Oh my. David would be like, red and teal. I'm already painting a red and teal model for him. All right. Struggle with batch painting. Yep. Yeah, it gets to the ugly stage, and then you got 5 or 10 models where it looks ugly room. Right. Exactly. Ooh, dark red and blue gray. That's such a good combo. Actually, Kerniko, try to throw olive green into that. That's my favorite, is blue gray, dark red, and olive green. I love that combo. But I'm actually starting a new model with that. That used to be my go-to. Focusing on sections. Oh, good. That's good, Grant. I'm glad it helps you. No, Dogfather. Those people have decades of experience. Okay, the 2 people you just named, Bob Ross and James Wapple, have decades of experience painting and painting to a high level. Like, James makes it look effortless because he's got like 30 years as a professional painter behind him. How you can't measure yourself against that. Like, go up in your brain and say, brain, this is not realistic. Unjudge me on this. I have not spent 30 years trying to become a really awesome painter. You can judge me. Tell your brain, you can judge me in 30 years or 25 or however long, minus however long you've been painting. Oh, dear. Let's see here. I'm gonna go look for the last. No, Iffy. There isn't one. This was painted a long time ago. I picked her up because we needed a monster to replace Rock Trolls because we finished. Here, everybody who came in on the raid. We finished. Oh, he needs a darker background though. I switched to this light background because the Genie looks better on it, but Rock Troll does not look better on it. Let's see. There's Rock Troll. There he is, in all of his glory and his dramatic lighting. So this is what we just finished, but then I move I do 6 models on a rotation, so I essentially needed to do that. Oh, Robin Deal. This is all important stuff. I've got paint mixed up, but I did want to actually give a little bit of an intro there. That's the thing. When you get a raid, you got to stop and step back for a second and then go forward. But yeah, so Troll worked out really well. He's going to stay with me. Ron is not going to get Troll. Sorry, Ron. I really like Rock Troll, and I spent a long time on him. He's going to stay with me, even though David thinks he's too green. It's not stretch time. In 10 minutes, it's stretch time. But yeah, you're right. We have taken a lot of time talking about painting philosophy today. This is the philosophy stream. That's all right. We'll at least block in some color on her abdomen. So as I was mentioning, I'm going with the Ultramarines from Reaper, which is a very neglected set of blues. And if you don't have it, get it. On and off since the late 80s. Right, but how long have you actually been really trying to get better and had the guidance, right, Dogfather? Because, I was painting since the 80s, too, but I wasn't looking for instruction. I wasn't looking for tips on how to get better or any of that. So, I mean, don't think about, you can get better. What you two need to target on, and maybe you need to, if you're on my Patreon, maybe you need to post on the Discord, put up your latest thing and say, what is it? What is the next step for me? Do it. And then we can focus on your next step, because that's probably what you've been missing. You probably just haven't had enough people look at it and say, all right, what you really need to work on is X. For your next several minis, focus on X. And a focused approach, a targeted approach, can really benefit you if you feel like you've been painting on a plateau for so long. I mean, ask Derek Schubert. Like, he was on this the other day, and he actually was very, very nice and said that I've helped him break plateaus in his own painting. I can help you break your plateau if you're willing to work at it. So, oh, good, Gren. Yeah, smooth, deep, and saturated. All right, so this is why you need the Ultramarine Triad. For one thing, her skin shadows are Ultramarine Highlight. So it's already a pretty blue, and you can see the violet in it. Even before I blend the pink into it, you can see the violet. So what this is a really heavy load of blue pigment with an additional heavy load of magenta. And that's to shift it, because we don't have access to actual ultramarine pigment, and if we did, it'd be bloody expensive. So we don't do that. Getting that big black base in there helps you see the actual color. So this is ultramarine shadow, and this is more like what you'd get with ultramarine blue as a tube paint, because with artist colors, they want to give you as saturated and as pure of a hue as they can give you, because they know you can always add white or gray or whatever you're going to do as a canvas painter, right? But in miniatures, people are a lot less, a lot more nervous about mixing usually, unless you start with a wet palette focus and you've got, somebody who's kind of instructing you a little bit, or maybe you just like mixing. There are those people out there, but a lot of people feel kind of tentative about it. So that's why we have triads. Triads, this is the midtone, this is the shadow. So this ultramarine blue is more like, dare I say it, Games Workshop's Ultramarines blue. Yes, it is a pun. They like to not emphasize it, but yes, it is. So this is more like you'd get, maybe GW's is a little bit lighter. But again, it's a blue with a cool shift to it. It's not shifting warm. It's not shifting toward green. It's shifting cold. So that's why you've got that going on there. And then we've got the highlight I actually don't keep around because, like a tube painter, I just tend to mix stuff. So for me, I'm just going to add a bit of white to this and kind of see and tune it until I get my ultramarine highlight. See, and actually ultramarine highlight is even a little bit more violet, so I'm going to have to add, what I will is I'll take advantage of whoever noticed earlier, but icy violet is very close to the mix of ultramarine and pink that I've got. So I'm actually going to do kind of a mix of the ultramarine blue and the icy violet, which should actually shift it in the way I want it. So just adding white to ultramarine does not give you ultramarine highlight. Ultramarine highlight has a little bit more of a purple shift in it, and that's going to be almost perfect there. If I lighten it just a little bit more, we'll have it. And I probably, looking at this, I need to take it quite a bit lighter. So yeah, if I had ultramarine highlight out, it would be easier, but I don't have to. Now we're getting there. That's really close, and then probably just one more drop of the icy violet. So yeah. Confucius was a foodie. Yeah. Philosophy of food, yeah. Totally. Food can be art too. I cook a lot, so I started watching a series. David and I started watching a foodie series the other day because I'm into learning to cook Indian, because we love Indian food here. And Rick Stein's India. It's actually, I got his cookbook, and then I learned there was a 6-episode series on it where he travels through India and samples like local street food and restaurant food and cooks dishes himself. It's actually a really fun show, and gosh, it just shows you all of sorts of India. And he talks talks a lot about histories of various regions and stuff like that. It's really kind of cool. I mean, he's coming at it from a British perspective, but still. Yeah, you do love your paint mixing. Yeah, with me, it's much the same. Like, I feel like I need to tune this just a little bit. Now I'm going to add a little bit of Runic Glow. If I feel like my Icy Violet isn't punching it in the direction I need fast enough, then I'll add that. There we go. That's much more what I want. A little bit more, like periwinkle. So that's kind of, that's essentially the triad. But what you love is this ultramarine shadow. If you're looking for a really saturated dark blue, it's a beautiful, beautiful color. I mean, look at this sucker. Let me just like spread it over the palette and show you how awesome. Like, how beautiful is that deep blue? Like, so gorgeous. Good afternoon, Gurgi. All right, so yeah, foodie with multiple special diets. Oh, yep. Yeah, crows and bones. I feel you. If I had to give up onions and garlic, I would be in a very sad place. Plus, it removes a lot of the sulfur from your diet, and you have to figure out other places to get it. But yeah, tomatoes actually is my main reaction. So I've learned to use tamarinds, to use tamarind a lot. And lately, if I need the body from it with the texture, they say you should use peaches. So I'm going to start experimenting with peach and tamarind as a tomato substitute. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, you need to do a little batch for yourself that has onions and garlic in it. But then you have to watch the cross-contamination. That's the hard part when you've got, when you've got family members who are severely allergic, you've got to just remove it most of the time. Is it all onions? Like, can you use shallots? There's really not a sub for garlic. There's an Indian spice that might work as a sub for some onion flavor, though. I just picked it up because they're like, the sub for it is actually shallots. And it actually does smell like shallots, weirdly. But it's not. I'm not sure if it's onion-based or not. I'd need to go look it up for you. But yeah, look for some substitutes for those flavors, maybe. All right, so now let's take, what we're going to do is, because she's got a lot of colors going on her already, let's talk some color theory. So we've already got, especially because her lips are also pink, we've got the blue and we've got the pink already going on. And we know that our third color is going to be a pale gold to do a lot of these jewelry accents. We're going to be going that way. Some of this is going to be pearls, probably, just to make it a little bit easier. Yeah. Yes. Asafoetida. Yeah, asafoetida, or whatever, however you pronounce that thing that Carrie Michael said. It's not onion-based, that's awesome. So that one, if you miss the flavor of onions, but be careful, it can be pretty, you gotta introduce a little bit until you think you can do it. But, oh, that's a good idea, D. Clearman, the whole pre-making stuff and freezing it in ice cube trays, and that way you can keep all your utensils, like, really clean. I mean, it takes a little pre-prep, right, but... Yeah, so it's ASAFO, as in FOE, and then TIDA. Look it up. I don't know if it would be a good substitute, but if you want, it smells just like shallots to me. Like, maybe it's just a tiny bit different, but it's really weird. But yeah, I've been picking up the weird Indian spices. Like, David opened up our spice drawer the other day and was just like, what is this stuff? It doesn't smell bad. It smells like shallots. I don't think it smells bad. Interesting. All right, so let's get this. So color theory says, and I was bringing this up before. So, all right, so we've already got 3 colors going on. If I added a 4th color to, like, paint in this, it would probably really clash. At this point, we've painted ourselves into a color scheme where we can't really jump. Like, I can't go a dark green. It won't look good. Like, maybe a dark purple. Like, you might be able to go with a really dark purple here. Because you've got this blue and pink phase already. But the thing I'm kind of worried about is that I don't want to lose the pink. I'm worried about putting something that's very reddish in here and kind of losing this delicate pink highlight that I've got. So instead I decided I wanted to go dark blue. Oh, stretch break! Dang it. Okay, Carrie Michael, that's good. Yeah, watching this Rick Stein's India show is making me want to go to India. All right, that's our stretch break. So I've got my paint mixed up. We're going to apply it all over here when we get back and determine if Anne made a mistake. But the cool thing is, okay, so the other thing, really quick before we stretch break, another color theory thing. Normally, you don't want to put the same color like up against itself, right? So what saves me here is that I've got like a lot of gold bling in here. And I might get in trouble up here. I might need to put a little bit of a gold edge here if I feel like my ultramarine here is too close to my ultramarine highlight up here. But then this is also like got a big highlight, big pink highlight here, right? So the targeting of this highlight is going to actually probably be okay, probably keep me okay. But if I do need a separator, I may need to paint, kind of paint a little freehand gold decoration here to separate the colors so that I don't have ultramarine up against ultramarine, even though one is dark and one is light. The other thing down here is obviously it won't be a problem down here because we've got all these like this elaborate jeweled belts. So down here we're going to have a gold separator between our ultramarine in our skin and our ultramarine in her bodice here. So that's all stuff I'm thinking about. And if I decided to, like, say, take this bracelet ultramarine as well, I would certainly give it gold edges just to make sure that I'm separating out everything. Also to add, like I said, that needed contrast. Right now she's very pale except for her mouth and like the line around her eyes, which of course we're going to fill in her eyes with actual eyes. But I want some contrast here. I don't have a lot of contrast. It's all very pale at the moment. So, all right. Alrighty. Maybe you're just really sensitive, Francis, to that particular smell. Some people are really sensitive to the smell of like onions or garlic or you know, a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's stretch break time. If you've been sitting in your chair, everybody, for more than half an hour, get up out of the chair, stretch your back, do a very gentle back bend, kind of tense your abs too, so you can feel it in your back. That way you know you can feel your back relaxing. It's probably going to be sore because you've been in a chair, but that's not like a trouble sign, okay? Like a little bit of soreness is just because your back's been, you know, flexed for so long in the other direction. So doing a gentle back bend, get that, tense up your abs. You know you have abs under all of this. You know, I'm in your boat. Look at me, pudge. But I know I have abs back there somewhere, and I'm going to tighten them up a little bit. Lean back. Let your neck fall back. Let your head fall back because you're always bending forward. So bend back, let your neck fall back. You can let it fall back all the way if you want, but I like to kind of support it a little bit to kind of work on those muscles. Otherwise, we never look up. We never get outside of our box. Take your arms, interlace your fingers, bring them up above your head. Do a stretch that way. That gets your shoulders out. Getting your shoulders out of that box and, you know, reminding them that they don't just belong hunched forward, that they actually can go back. Very important. Let's see here. What other stretch do I want to do? Oh yeah, the behind the back stretch. Where I take one arm and I just kind of swing it up and I gently pull it over. So I stretch the shoulder again, stretching the shoulder a little bit back, stretching those tendons and ligaments. You do it gently. I usually, your back should have an arch in it, and I usually tense up my abs again just so I can feel it. And I hold it for like 10, 20 seconds. And then I'll do the other arm. It just really helps to, like I said, we're always hunched over, we're always bending over, we're always staring at our phone, we're always on our computer. Like, essentially, we just live inside this little box that's, like, right here. And we seldom get out of that box. So get up and stretch, reach for the sky, do a little bend. I'm going to do some cat-cows down on the floor. If you wonder what a cat-cow is, you can look it up. It is a yoga exercise. It's very simple, and it helps to build flexibility in your back. It's a really good one. Maybe I'll do some bird dogs too. Bird dogs are fun because you can do them straight from cat-cows. And they kind of like put some strength. They work your lower back a little bit. I've been doing all this stuff in the morning lately. Excellent. So that feels good. I can feel my back again. When my back goes away, then I'm worried because it means that it's probably frozen up. There we go. Stretches. Yay, stretches. Oh, wait. One more thing I need to do. I haven't done my back bend with punches yet. So gentle back. Then I kind of reach my arms over my head and I punch the air for a little bit. Which is also good because it gets your blood moving and you're not just sitting here hardly breathing. Be sure you breathe too, guys. One thing I've noticed that I do, there's a term for this too, and they noticed it in video gamers, but when you start really looking at what you're doing, you start breathing really shallowly, and I've got that thing, like I do it. So taking a break and making sure that you're breathing, you know, you're breathing in Because a lot of us, when we get really hyper-focused on these little detail things, we do that. We actually start breathing really shallowly because we're so concentrated, and we're also bent over, so we're constricting our chest, right? We don't have all the room to breathe. So try to be mindful of that every once in a while. And keep yourself, take some deep breaths. Please, oxygenate your brain. You need it. And yes, now it is hydrate time. So if you have stretched with me, sit down or go fetch yourself a tea or a latte or whatever your groove is. For those in the dinner hours, it may be a scotch, but that's not very hydrating. So you should probably get some water with your scotch. Yes, take a big slug of water. And now we will return. But yeah, I want to say that, yeah, you might be, Francis. You might be picking up a little bit of that, something weird from that spice. When I smelled it, it smelled a little bit weird, but I'm used to that with Indian spices. But it definitely, I could see how it smelled like shallots, and I could see how they would say that you would use shallots if you didn't have that spice. Yeah, mindful breathing, for sure. Yes, if your painting is frustrating you, exactly. Breathe a bit. Take a break. This hobby should not be frustrating. It should be a joy. So if you get frustrated, take a break, step back, work on something else. Sometimes you just can't push through a certain point of the miniature. Like, you can't force it. You've just got to kind of, maybe I put it on a shelf and go work on something else that's totally different. For me, like, if I'm getting frustrated with a small model, I will switch to a bust for a while. And then I'll go back to my small model when I've gotten some perspective. Or when I've, probably after I've slept, I come back to it the next day. It doesn't look nearly as bad as I thought it did the night before. And then I can resume. So let's block in. I'm going to block in with the, this is one of those rare times, guys, that I'm going to actually use a triad, like straight up. Because I'm going to use the ultramarine shadow for shading on my ultramarine base. And then we'll see where we go from there. I do have to be careful about my highlight because, of course, my highlight going up from the ultramarine is going to hit the ultramarine highlight, which is the shadow of the skin. So that's what I was talking about, where I don't want to use the same color on two different surfaces too close to each other. So I always want to keep kind of a separation. So work in sections to keep things smooth. Like, if you're looking for the ultimate smooth base coat, the answer is to work in sections, to start at one edge and work across. So starting at the bottom, and then we slowly fill in this area going up. This model is now like, her mind is blown because she's like, it has been 3 years since you worked on me, and now you're working on me? If I finish this one, Ron will probably get this one. I always I'm always like, does Ron get this model? I don't know. So that's a nice blue, and it's dark enough right away to give us contrast, right? And it's not too dark. Like, remember that colors change depending on what you put next to them. Here, let me make sure she's in focus. I know I'm a little bit out. Here we go. There we are. So colors change according to what's next to them. So if I had gone black with this bodice, then her skin would start to look a lot lighter. And likewise, keeping the hair white up here, kind of cloud-like, or mist-like, keeps the skin tones a little bit deeper. It means they don't wash out. If I went black with her hair, her face would wash out so fast. So you got to keep in mind the contrast, and how colors change depending on lights and darks next to them. Up, acrylic. Yeah, silver tongue. I am currently strictly acrylic, but silver, I did go to actual art school, so I have used gouache and watercolor, and I draw a lot, and I use pen and ink, and I used to love oils. When I was a kid, I did a lot of oils, and in art school I did a lot of oils, but after art school, the smell of turpentine was just like, oh, I never want to smell that again. So when Winsor & Newton came out with their Artisan Oil Paints, which are actually water-soluble oil paints, I picked up some of those, and I have sworn to do some oil paints at some point. I'll probably do them not on the Reaper stream, though, because there's a bust that I want to use from... who is it from? It's from Black Sun. There's a bust from Black Sun that I really want to do in oils. So I probably will do that, probably on my Patreon, though. Since it's not a Reaper mini, so I'm not going to do it on this stream. But yeah, so I'll probably do that on there. I have some experience with oils, so it'll be interesting to try to transition that to a figure and to see if I mess it up. The great thing about oils, though, is you can always wipe it off if it's not working. You know, you can always mess with it. And if you really, really mess it up too much by overworking it, you can take your rag and you can just like, whoop, oh, it's all gone now. At least in the early stages. But yeah, if you're on my Patreon, awesome. If you're not on my Patreon, I'll probably mention when I'm going to start doing it. But I've been thinking about it more lately because I've been thinking about that particular bust. And I think what I want to do is kind of do a mixed media on it. Because I've really put so much time into becoming like an expert at acrylics, I would like to do some underpainting in acrylics and then go over the top of it with oils and see what I can do. And it'll be an interesting project if I do it that way. Because I'll probably be doing a lot of glazing and build-ups. But yeah, a lot of people who work with traditional oils do not like the water-soluble oils because they do dry a little faster. They have their characteristics are slightly changed because essentially Winsor & Newton has convinced the oil molecule to like water. But, you know, that does change some of its properties just a little bit. So a lot of oil painters I've heard kind of sneer at the artisan stuff, but me, it's more that I really don't like solvents. Like, I want to avoid solvents if I can. And so if you give me an oil paint that works more or less like a regular oil paint, but I can use soap and water to clean up after it, I'm all there. I am like all there. So for me, I feel like once again, that, you know, just keeping an open mind, acknowledging where there are changes or differences that you need to account for using the water-soluble oils. And then, you know, you decide whether that's for you or not. A lot of traditional oil painters have decided it's not for them. They'd rather continue, you know, working with the solvents. That's cool for them. It's not cool for me. So I'm going to just learn. Maybe I'll become an expert in water-soluble oils next. And then teach everybody how to use them. I probably should buy some stock in Sherwin-Williams or in Williams-Sonoma, or yeah, all these Williams, Winsor & Newton, before I do that. So if you wonder why she's got a little bit of yellow in her hair, it's because I had her in a class as an example, and somebody asked me about shading and highlighting yellow, and I just grabbed her because I hadn't painted the hair at all, and just painted yellow over it. So actually, let's fix that right now. Yeah, water-soluble oils. And you don't have to use turpentine, right, Gren, to get it out of your brushes and stuff. That's my big thing. I just don't like mineral spirits. After years of the smell in art school, and, you know, even when I was younger, I would use, my parents bought me, like, oil paint by numbers and stuff. And just the turpentine, I just never want to smell turpentine again. And odorless mineral spirits are cool and all, but they're not completely odorless. You know, it's still a solvent. Just not a fan. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm interested to start that project. Right now I'm kind of off on, the Patreon is going off on a dramatic lighting trend because I've got some models that I wanted to make pretty dramatic, so. Oh yeah, sorry, Nomad Zeke. I didn't catch that. This is the Ultramarine Blue Triad. I hand mixed the highlight, but it essentially is. I mean, you can see. This is a little bit darker than my original. I may have mixed a little white into my Ultramarine Highlight to begin with, come to think of it. I'm going to just mix up a highlight to this. But this way, at least, we can cover over the hair. And have it look right. That's too light, but that's alright. I'm just mixing it. Mixing it on the mini. There we go. That's about perfect. So yeah, it's like the Ultramarine Highlight I mixed with a couple of, a little bit of white in it. We'll just use that to get out of here. Technically, I kept a lot of the light gray and just shaded it with this Ultramarine. But that's fine. I can come back in with more gray if I want to. Really, I'm using the Ultramarine as more of a shadow for this pale gray and white back here anyway. All right, there we go. There, that fixed that. So the back here, I've used the ultramarine, this color, as a shadow for a lot of it. And I've kept a lot of my light gray, which actually was my original primer. I've kept it here with the intention of covering it over with ever lighter coats. But I have decided to somewhat do kind of an opalescent effect on this cloud down here. So highlighting with different colors. I haven't quite worked out exactly, but I'll probably highlight with yellows and pinks and shade with some light purples. And do it that way to try to get that effect. We'll see. It'll be an experiment. And then the hair, as I mentioned, I'm bringing it up. Right now I'm just doing started doing very stylistic because I thought it would be kind of cool to do it that way. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it at this point. I kind of like it. I might blend it in a little bit and then leave a little bit of it and not have it quite be as stark with the lines here. But I wanted something different. I wanted something different from her smooth skin tones when I was tackling the hair. So that's why I started out doing it very stylized. She's a being that's just coalesced from the air, so she can choose what she looks like. Oh, and I lost a little bit of that arm. Blorfed a little bit. That's okay because I have my ultramarine shadow or ultramarine highlight to come in to blend that in. Yay! Good, Twisted Oma. Yeah, Gren. If you like wet blending, I mean, oils are really good for that. But on the other side, practicing wet blending with your acrylics is going to set you up for oils. Like, you'll at least know the brush strokes. Like, yeah, the qualities are different, and you can work it a lot longer, which isn't always a plus. You can get into trouble with that. But it will help you. Like, brushwork is brushwork. And a lot of the techniques that we use as fast blend techniques on acrylics are just a lot slower with oils, or can be. But in general, the body of oils is different. I mean, the viscosity is a little bit different depending on how you thin it. But yeah. But in general, you're not wasting time by working, learning various brush strokes and techniques in acrylic. Some of that will cross over to oils. I mean, Wapple being able to do like the fine detail and stuff that he does with oils, is because of his, practice with acrylics. So, he's just generally building brush control. So it's not a bad thing. You're not wasting time. You're never wasting time. Because the other thing that is useful to me, and because I've tried a lot of different mediums, is the fact that you can then draw comparisons, right? Because you have knowledge of how X works in acrylics, when you enter into oils, you will have then a sort of paradigm where you can draw comparisons and say, oh, this is just like this technique in acrylics, so I wonder what happens if I do this. And, this reminds me a lot of doing this. And so, you'll be able to draw comparisons and it will give you an edge. You will understand better because of your experience in the different medium. You'll kind of understand how things work and you'll be able to immediately see the differences. Like, oh, this paint feels a lot thicker. So if I was working with thicker acrylics, what would I do here? Oh, this paint is much more transparent. Oh, well, that means Anne says I need to add white. Stuff like that. So it's never wasted time. Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm a writer, and I constantly see crossovers between writing and painting. That's why I talk a lot about theory and philosophy and mindset, because all of that applies to every creative thing you do. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Hey there, Rex, how's it going? I'm going to mix in a little bit of my regular ultramarine here into my ultramarine highlight, just because I've got a little bit of a blurb here and I want a little bit more shadow under this collarbone. Got to be careful. And I am doing some spot wet blending here and a little bit of layering over the top. But I want more of a shadow there. See, it's that collarbone really starts to come out. The part of doing this this smooth blending, guys, on skin tones is delicacy. Like, having a brush with a nice tip, having your paint very thin, and just very, using tiny little strokes and a very delicate touch. And that's part of it. It's just like, you want it to be smooth. You want it to be like really, really fine. And so the brush stroke you use should reflect that. You're never using a heavy-handed approach when you're doing really, really fine blending. Especially not when you're doing that sort of thing on these tiny bits, these tiny little pieces of the model. So I'm liking this blue a lot. I think it's going to work. I think I'm going to actually do her armlet there, and I think I'm going to do this wider armlet also. And I'll end up painting a gold rim around the outside of those to separate them better from the skin. But I like this blue, and I wanna keep on with it. So I want to introduce it then a couple of other places on the model. I'll introduce it in these little... I'm actually hesitating here because I might want to come in with pink on this tassel and that tassel, and maybe even this little section up here. Maybe even working off the same pink that I was working off up there with the Succubus Kiss highlighted with like magenta and runic glow. So I'm going to do this whole band, and then I'll come in with some freehand to edge it in gold later on. But I want to be able to see my light and dark pattern and how it's working out across the model. Yeah, I think whatever creative thing you do, you will inevitably see parallels between that and other creative things you do. Even if it's only in the way you think about it and the way you work through blocks. The world is doing okay. I'm on my third day of like getting up early to do my exercises in the morning, and I'm noticing huge payoffs even this early. I thought about putting my little exercise regimen up for you guys on my Patreon Discord, just in case you decided you want to try it. It's actually pretty easy because I'm not like an advanced yoga practitioner or anything, so all of the exercises are very kind of low impact. Like, you'll still probably get warm. I did this morning doing them, but it'll warm you up, but it's not like a sweat-breaking cardio workout or anything. And it's minimal equipment. But, I mean, it's really helping my back, like, strikingly, hugely. Even with just 3 days in. And since it's morning and I tend to be somewhat motivated in the morning, I find that I'm throwing in some extras into my routine here and there. Like, I started doing some crunches. Just really simple little crunches. Oh, this is Ultramarine Blue Up in Atoms. We were working with the Ultramarine Triad, and then I took my highlight and mixed more white into it. A lot more white. So these are colors that I feel are very underrated in the current Master Series lines. So run out and buy them if you don't own them. Ultramarine Shadow in particular is an absolutely gorgeous, deep, violet-y blue. Hey, Sir Cuddleboo. I love your name. Welcome. I am Anne. I worked for Reaper Miniatures. I have worked, hey guys, April 1st, because I'm still working for Reaper, even though I'm part-time working for Reaper, I still get to celebrate my work anniversary. And on April 1st, best work anniversary ever, I will have worked for Reaper 18 years. I bet Ed'll forget. He always forgot my anniversary. I don't blame him. He's got like, what, 50 employees to remember the anniversaries of? Yeah, haha, Royal Llama. Ultramarine Blue has been around far longer than Games Workshop. That's what I was saying. It's a pun. They won't admit it because in the old days, Games Workshop had a sense of humor. Well, now I guess in the new days, they kind of have gotten a little bit of their sense of humor back. But they've refound it. But yeah, so Ultramarine is essentially the colder set of blues. So these don't highlight toward green. They highlight toward violet. And if you're looking for something that's closest to the ultramarine blue you see in tube paints, you're probably looking for Ultramarine Shadow, which is very pure. And even though it's dark, it does not have a bit of black in it. It is straight up blue and violet. Yeah, my job can vote. I was not an instant prodigy, Twisted Oma, but I very clearly have a memory, and I must have been 4. Like, honestly, it must have been that young, where I wanted really bad, like, my parents would get the newspapers, and in the newspapers, in the comics section, there would always be the how to draw a cartoon character, right? Or how to draw a duck, how to draw a tiger, you know? And I always really badly wanted to do that. Like, I just had this desire as a kid that I wanted to draw, and I wasn't satisfied with just, like, throwing scribbles down. Like, I wanted it to look like something. From a very, very early age. And I remember very clearly, like, taking out one of those things when I was way little and looking at, like, a horse, like, looking at a picture of a horse on one of my books and looking at the cartoon thing and noticing that, you know, it wasn't just a stick figure. The horse's legs had width. And so I started drawing animals with actual width instead of doing stick figures when I was a little kid. And that was, like, I have very clear memory of that. And that was kind of where the light turned on, where I started looking at nature and started trying to draw more from it. I lost a lot of that during high school, but I got pretty good at drawing what I saw. And so I feel like I was not an infant prodigy. I was just a really determined little kid. Like, I wanted to draw well, and so I worked at it. So, and I wasn't very good at it for a very long time. Even up to art school, I would say I was not the best student in any of my art classes, not even close. There were people who were just much better at it than me. And it's because probably my drive to art had kind of switched to a drive to write somewhere around year 10 or 11. So I stopped spending as much time drawing. And I started spending a lot more time writing when I was around 10. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is ultramarine. I mean, it's ultramarine with white in it, so it's going to look a lot like cobalt. Cobalt technically is more of a neutral, a bit lighter, and a bit greener of a blue. So it doesn't have the violet tones that this ultramarine has. But cobalt was always a popular blue because of its opacity. But of course, you know, now cobalt blue isn't cobalt blue, it's cobalt blue hue, and they're just using phthalocyanine blues with white in them to give you that effect. But yeah, so it wasn't that I was naturally talented for it so much as I had an honest interest in it as a kid, and my parents didn't discourage me. They got me art stuff. Mom always drew when she was younger, and now she's back to arting as an adult. But so they didn't discourage my creativity stuff. I'm pretty happy with the fact that I kind of switched from drawing to writing as a focus, though, in my teens especially. I did a lot of writing. Because now I feel like my writing and my art are both I kind of switch back and forth. I go back and forth with them, and I feel like both of them are at a nice standard. Like, I'm happy with my work mini painting. I could be happier with my drawing because I haven't kept up with it. You know, I don't have to draw a miniature. So I feel like I could work on that. Got a little bit of a blurf there, so I'm going to throw some water in there and try to scrub it off. If not a huge emergency, because it's pretty easy to mix this pale color, the pale pink. I'll have to dig this color out. Not doing side planks yet. I don't have enough core strength to support it, Dogfather. Actually, it was recommended because my back damage is not actually like as bad as I feared. But I mean, you've got to do something for your something active for your core. I do very, very low key crunches. I keep my lower back flat on the floor and supported. And it's not hurting. So, we shall see. But I have a friend who also suffered from a lot of back pain, and she now lifts weights, so she's put a lot of time into her core, and she did recommend very limited crunches for me. So yeah, good point. You can hurt yourself. It really depends on your own degree of back pain. But what I kind of think about is like with the planking, that's kind of a passive core builder, right? Because you're not actually working so much that you have to keep your core taut for sure. But I wanted something that would be a little bit more active for my core, for my front core, I should say, my abs. Yeah, I did a lot of that too, Dogfather. That's how I found my current setup. And the jury's out on crunches. Like, a lot of times what they'll recommend is the Pilates first pose, the 100, where you hold your legs in tabletop position while you're on your back, and then you just lift your shoulders off the mat. And that's pretty much my crunch. Like, I don't do a full sit-up. No way. But I'll just lift my shoulders up off of the mat. And that way my back stays flat. And I still am able to build some tensile strength. Fooding time again. Bye, Shadow Raven. Thank you for coming. Yeah, cadmium reds and yellows because everybody's gone away from the toxic. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, guys, when they can create a hue that works, like, is almost as good coverage and is, you know, the right color and has the right transparency, it's essentially, like, you may as well just go with it. I think you can still get some toxic paint, but you're going to pay a lot for it. That's the other thing, is it's much more expensive. If you're going to keep art accessible, like, I remember having to buy some of those, and just student grade, which meant the pigment count was really low, and they were still bloody expensive. I need to get that top part over here behind the little beads. But yeah, I mean, the bottom line when you're doing an exercise regimen, when you've had back pain or front pain or any kind of pain, is that you should be very careful going into it. You should check with your doctor, which I did before I started. And she just pretty much told me to start low impact and work up, which is pretty much what I'm doing. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't, like, in dire danger of dislocating my back if I did something. Just not worth it, right? Yeah, exactly. Well, and you can get pretty blues other ways. You know, it may not be that lapis blue, may not be precisely that, but yeah, that's exactly why it is Twistedoma. Right. Yeah, because when you've got no, well, essentially, when you've got no front core, side core strength, your back grabs all of that, especially when you're leaning over like this, right? Like we were talking about earlier, being at the computer, we're living inside this little box here. And then we're bending our neck over to look at our phone, which also puts pressure right down our spine to our lower back. So eventually, yeah, back pain that becomes a way of life. So I am trying to tackle this. I'm pretty much like telling all those fitness pros to put their money where their mouth is. Because I'm like, all right, you tell me that if I strengthen my core muscles, my back pain will go away and my dysfunction will, you know, lessen and I'll get less headaches and all this. All right, I'm taking you on. I'm going to do this core exercises and do it for like at least a month. And if it doesn't work, then I'm calling you out, fitness community. But I do have to say, guys, since I started doing 15 minutes worth, and it's just 15 minutes, like, it feels so much longer. 15 minutes worth of exercise and yoga warm-ups in the morning. And it's all low impact. And I feel like already after 3 days, I feel so much better. So I have to say that I'm probably not going to be calling out the fitness industry. They're probably getting at something. I hate to say it when they tell us that if we strengthened our cores, we'd have a lot less back pain. Got a little bit of a blorf here under the hair too. Where I see a blorf, I'm just going to fix it. There. Got a little bit of my ultramarine blue up there under her hair. I don't want that. All right, so I'm liking this blue, guys. I'm liking this blue. I think it's going to be pretty good. I'm going to shade it a bit. Yeah, I mean, to get real strength, but I mean, I was starting from like less than 0 every. My stomach is so flabby. I never engage my core. Like that's how I had so many back issues. That's how I put my back out, like, 4 weeks ago. But I should at least notice with my level of pain right now, which is not bad. I should notice improvement, the way I figure, in a month. Yeah, the lapis pigment. Yeah, pigments have fascinating history. Yeah, it's slow. Oh, yeah, from carrying the baby, because so much weight on the front, right? Yeah. I bet it's slow. Well, because that doesn't that like also like kind of tear or strain abdominal muscles, like Reverie, isn't there like there's a lot of pelvic damage, like all that intricate muscle dance in there, right? Like pelvic floor and everything else. So you have a baby and then it's just like your body is like trashed and you're like, how did ancient people do this? Yeah, lots of moving parts, right? And lots of tendons and ligaments, and those, when they get strained, they take a while. So I get it. I never had kids, and now I can't. So it's like, I will never have to go through that, but I feel you, at least as far as the pain go. Yeah, and then try fitting it back into the same spot. Yeah, you really don't know how ancient people did it. Yeah, I don't know how the heck they did it without just like giving up. Like, what the heck, ancient people? How did you manage this without significant drugs? Like, maybe they were just so much more hardcore than us. All right, so I'm going to put some shadows right down here. Both because of that and because of the kind of the hollow of the stomach here. Technically, she has phantom-y hip bones here, so I'm going to kind of block in a shadow there and there. I'm going to get closer. Haha. Kickboxing did a lot of core, yeah. Oh, yeah, with kickboxing. Ooh, wow. Crooked hip. Yeah, and the crooked hip itself can exacerbate back pain, can't it? I've read that. Because your support system, your legs, if you've got a hip that's permanently crooked, then it's going to influence your foot strike. It's going to influence the way your back engages. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. When you slack, it comes back. Yeah, that's the real test, right? Is like you might think, oh, well, maybe I just got better. But then you stop the exercises and then it's back. And I think sometimes, like, I did physical therapy after I put my back out, back when I was at Reaper. It was the last time I did it before this time 4 weeks ago. And it was really out, like, seriously out, like I felt like my back was in 2 pieces. So I did PT after that. But I feel like there's not enough emphasis when you go to PT. Like, it was great. They got me really strong in, like, 6 or 8 weeks. Like, we did some really hardcore stuff. But then it goes away, right? Because the exercises that I kept from them are good for kind of realignment, but they're not necessarily strengthening exercises. And they leave you with just this kind of, well, just do yoga or whatever, but they don't really, there's not a lot of talk about strengthening and how it can benefit you. I don't know. They were a pretty good PT place. I felt like they definitely helped me. I just feel like there could be more guidance in general on that stuff in our society. How important it is to strengthen your body. Even if you're just a desk jockey. I mean, it takes work, right? And people also just don't want to do that. And when you're overweight, it's hard to do it. Like, when I was almost 250 pounds was my highest weight. And yeah, it hurt to just move. Like, you didn't want to go out and take a walk or do weights. And most of the time, I had so much emphasis on weight loss, and I wasn't paying attention to, like, strengthening, even though strengthening would have put me in a much better place, probably. So there we go. So see that nice darkening effect that we're getting? Yeah, exactly. They don't explain why. They assume you know it, right? It's common sense. Everybody knows that yoga is good for your core. Well, yeah, but what does that mean? Like, and why? And which positions? Like, some positions are realignment positions. They're not strengthening. Somebody has to fly that desk. Yeah, gardening. Lots of bending. Well, as long as you do it right, right? Because there's lots of bending and kneeling, but if you don't have a solid core, that I bet gardening could hurt. Yeah, PT, I agree with you, Francis. PT's like going on a crash diet, and then you go back to your old eating habits. Yes. Hey, Miniatures Den, we're talking about life changes and how we all need to build our core strength so that we can be slumping over our desks and painting to a grand old age without back pain. Hello, Raid. We're back here with Anne, where we talk about lifestyle and mini painting. It's what we do. Oh, you got your Reaper Expo box, Quickie Tigress. Awesome. Hey, everybody. Hello. Oh, thank you for the resub, Pretoria. We're talking about core exercises and how physical therapy places are like boot camp. They beat you up and fix you and you feel fantastic, but then you get out and you just go back to your old habits and nothing sticks. And we're kind of talking about whether like there should be more emphasis on, not just, hey, well, you should do some yoga, but why should I do this exercise? And which of these exercises is like strength building and will help me from having a hurt back in the future? All that kind of thing. So yeah, a little bit like that. But yeah, we're also doing some shading, just some basic shading, darkening down my blue here on the bodysuit of our Genie. I started out with just a flat out ultramarine, which is Reaper has an ultramarine blue Triad. So I started out with that, and I am just darkening it down. Since she's kind of like born of mist anyway, I can go real saturated with her shadows, and it's all magical. So I'm just working with this set of paint, really. Ultramarine blue is 9188, and then ultramarine shadow, which is this delicious shadow color, is 9187. Very saturated dark. It's gorgeous. Oh, yeah. Yes, at least with PT, you now know which exercise. Yeah, and that's true in R. And I've been doing my PT exercises. Like, I do them every night. But lately, I've come to realize that except for the bridges, which I haven't been doing right, by the way. So they didn't really teach me that very well. But except for the bridges, it's all like alignment stuff and stretches. It's not really strength building. And I think for permanent, more permanent fixed back pain, I think that strength building is necessary in addition to the stretching. Like, no question, I need to stretch my hamstrings. They're agony to stretch, but so I'm doing a little bit of wet blend here just because I want a quick fix, a quick blend to get some dimension in there. Oh, the Jen, yeah, she's cool. She's here. I've got her stats. She's Bones Black. She's actually one of the earlier Bones Black, so has some really nice detail to her. She's Ashana Genie, and her number is 44012, and she's sculpted by the incredible Bobby Jackson. And apparently I was supposed to paint her midriff to be like her skin, but I actually kind of like her in the onesie, so I'm keeping her that way. Yes, Jelly, yes. Okay, Anara, thanks. Bye. Yeah, it's about time to call the stream. Sadly, Luca hits us with the fat raid moments before we're ready to end the stream. He's just happy that we didn't end as we were raiding somebody else. That happened to me the other day. That's funny. The train raid. The choo-choo train raid. Where you keep raiding somebody who had just started to raid somebody else. But I'm going to block in these shadows and then we'll call it. Then I need to go and take my walk. And it's a gorgeous day where I am. I hope the rest of you are having some better weather now that we're temporarily past that awful February freeze for some of you. Hopefully stuff is warming up and you're starting to feel like maybe things will actually like get to the point where you would need a light jacket or maybe no jacket at all. Like we can see the light at the end of the tunnel here. Sunny but cold. Nice, Shadow Spawn. Yeah, it was 75 here. Actually, it was 79 here yesterday, which is insane. Right, Twisted Oma. Well, and I just kind of like it because it breaks up the model. Otherwise, the model would be all this misty, ghosty, like pink, blue to pink fade, which is cool and all. I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't, but I kind of like having like this kind of center point where everything else can revolve around and be misty. So she's really solid here, and then she goes ghosty. So I kind of like that. 60-mile-per-hour winds. Yuck. I always get nervous when the trees whip around. We get some serious wind here, but not that serious. Like, I don't think I've ever seen 60 in this area since I moved here. But I've been here for less than a year, so it's not like I have a great grasp of Northern California weather. Other than when it does get windy, it kicks stuff into the air that really my allergies do not like. Alright, getting a little bit of a deeper shadow here under the rib cage, even though she's technically amorphous. But she still has kind of the suggestion that she has a rib cage, so I'm going to do it. I'm gonna hit it. Just tuning. Doing a little wet blend. This is Anne lazy setup. I tend to do lazy setup where it's really relaxed. And I just wet blend a lot and kind of block things in. And then I start getting tighter as I tune with a highlight. But I like this light and dark. I really like that shadow under her abdomen. Oh my. Zambies again. Boof. Yeah, the shadow. It's that ultramarine shadow. Like, it's so beautiful. It's got pretty good coverage too, because it's got such a high pigment load of the higher density blue pigment we have. So it covers better than you think it does. And ultramarine, the one that I started with the base coat on, I got a 1-coat base coat on that, if you guys weren't keeping track. So whoever, there are Master Series colors that cover really well, even the blues. I just did a video on this for the Patreon. Oh, and I forgot, I mentioned my Patreon earlier, but I did not plug it. So patreon.com/paintingbig is who I am. And I'm doing a thing on dramatic lighting for my $10 tier, and I'm doing some stuff on the Dungeon Dwellers colors for my $5 tier, and $2 tier gets whatever I feel like doing, really. $2 tier is the kind of potluck tier. It's like, what does Anne feel like painting today? You'll probably get some random stuff this coming month. Because I've got these new Black Crow miniatures, and I really want to work on them. Which means that I should use them for Patreon subjects. Your potluck. Yes. All right, so we're going to do just a little bit of shading here on the side of this blue bracelet, and then we will probably call it for the day. Thanks for sticking with us today. We did an awful lot of talk about like kind of philosophy of painting and setting yourself up for success. We did a lot. We did a little bit of color composition on this to explain why I'm going the way I am with the colors on her bodysuit here. We talked about the ultramarine blues. We talked about like not comparing yourself. Oh, unjudged. That's my new t-shirt. Where's my unjudged sticky note? It's around here. I may have unjudged it right out of existence. Yes. This is my new slogan. Unjudge, everybody. Stop judging yourself next to that awesome miniature painter you see online. Stop it. It's not good for you. So unjudged. I'm going to go and look for unjudged t-shirts online. And if I can't find it, yes, hashtag unjudge. If I can't find it, I'm going to make one. I will, so help me, I will go on Zazzle or something and I will make the unjudged t-shirt. Or maybe I could just do it on Patreon. Do my Patreon swag. They invited me to join their swag program. I just couldn't think of what I wanted. But if I can make a bunch of unjudged stuff, I'll totally do that. Yeah. Oh, no problem, Rax. Hey, you were here. You gave your waves. But yeah, so who are we gonna raid today? Justin or John or whoever is riding herd on us. Just gonna block in a little bit of a highlight there. Yeah, it's so hard to unjudge. No, it is. I mean, I do the same thing when I read some amazing writer's work or I see like Darren Hahn's stuff and I'm just like, oh, although more often now with painting, I'm able to unjudge. I'm able to just go, okay, how did they do that? Let's figure it out. I'll instead of getting down on myself, I'll just kind of like geek out on trying to figure out how they did it. And I think that's a little bit better. Ooh, mocha! Yeah! All right, cool. Super, guys. So tomorrow is Thursday and we'll be working on Shadow Eyes Catfolk Rogue. Please say hi to Mocha from me. She is fantastic. I hope you stick around and enjoy what she's working on. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the stream. We will be back tomorrow morning. Awesome. Bye.